and welcome to a quick video about flipped classrooms. This video is an example of the kind of video that you would be creating as a prelude to running a flipped classroom. Unlike most recorded lectures, these tend to be about 10 minutes long. The research we have tends to show that students will only listen to about 7 minutes of a video, so we hope they might make it to 10. So there's no point in doing an hour video, and what we do with the flipped classroom model when we have to deliver more content is to break up the content over multiple videos and then integrate those with learning activities in between. And this approach is something that's called chunking, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the workshop. So the purpose of this video is really to, first of all, to introduce you to the workshop that we're going to do, but also to introduce you to the format and to talk a little bit about how the flipped classroom works. So the purpose of the videos that you would be producing for your flipped classroom are to introduce the topic, which is what we're doing, outline the reading tasks. Never ever summarize the reading tasks, because no one will do the readings if you summarize them, but you can give them pointers in terms of what to look for, what areas they might want to skim over, and some guide to the reading and how it connects to the rest of their learning. You describe the student's task of what they're about to achieve, and you can include both the in-class and the prior activities you want them to do before they come to class. You can also use these videos as a little bit of an after report and feedback for the students when you've conducted your exercises and you want to give a summary of what happened and some pointers to the students. So in terms of the concept of what is a flipped classroom, it's a new way of approaching learning, although maybe it's an old approach that's made a comeback. There's a debate around that, but let's not go into that. And that means it's a way of prioritizing that valuable face-to-face contact that we have with students. So instead of spending all your contact hours doing lectures where the students may not attend, or they may not be listening, or they'll spend their time playing with their phones, we spend the contact face-to-face time actually doing things, actually working through problems, and actually working through groups. But to do that, we need to prepare, and we give them video material and reading material and activities to do as preparation at the beginning. And again, it's important that those get sorted into those little chunks of activities, because students will switch off with long content, and you need to sort of keep shifting gears to keep them engaged. The advantage of moving what we'd ordinarily do in lectures to this format, there's a lot of advantages to it. Students can self-pace. They can rewind if there's a concept they don't get. Students who have difficulty understanding what you're saying can play it at their own pace. Students can, on YouTube, you can play it at 1.5, twice speed if you want to skim through. And you're feeling bored, and you don't end up in that situation where there's always one student at the front of the class who puts their hand up and says, "I'm sorry, I don't understand anything you're saying, and can you go over it again?" And the rest of the class goes, "Oh, okay." That student can do that in their own time, and the students who already know the material can keep going ahead. The other purpose of those videos is to prepare students for what to expect in class. Now there's a side point here about what do you do when students don't prepare. And experience seems to be that you tough it out, that you go on to the learning tasks, and those who are confused, who don't know what to do, will very quickly learn to do the preparation before next time, because they don't want to look like idiots. And if they say, "I don't know how to do this," you say, "Well, did you do the videos? The videos told you how to do it." It very quickly shuts them up. So what are the advantages of the flipped format? You definitely get more engagement from students because you're sitting there supervising them, getting them to do things. Students' experience tends to be better. There's always some grumblers, but overall students have a better experience. And you get to spend more time on those higher order tasks. That rather than setting the difficult stuff as homework, you actually get to work through that with students, where they have an opportunity to speak to you and ask questions. And ultimately, it's more fulfilling for students because no one is quite as bored and depressed by the lecture format as the lecturer, who has to give it multiple times over and over. So there's advantages all around. And in the workshop, we'll talk about some of the technologies you can use to enhance the in-classroom experience and to help smooth the whole process. Now, there is a reading which will be listed in the notes below on the YouTube video. It's quite a simple, straightforward introductory reading to give you an example of how you structure readings and reading tasks into the flipped model. And the task that we'll actually be doing in class will be designing a flipped learning activity around the theme of business ethics. I thought that would be a topic that everyone could get on board of and participate in regardless of disciplinary background. So that's quite a simple task. We're not going to spend that much time on it in class. We'll just brainstorm some ideas, but this will just give you an idea of how the preparation model works with the flipped classroom. So your preparation is just to think of 2 or 3 ideas as to something you might do as an in-class activity to discuss the idea of ethics with students. Don't get too committed to any of those ideas, because once you get into the your small group discussions of maybe 3 or 4 people, you'll find that we'll be flipping through these ideas pretty quickly. But if you don't have any ideas prepared or any ideas to think about beforehand, you might find it very difficult when you're put on the spot to brainstorm those ideas. So that's what we'll do in class, just to give you an idea of how the format works, and that will lead on to further discussion of the flipped format and any questions you might have for me. Some things to think about when you're designing that task. You want to introduce the topic of business ethics, but you don't want this to think about this as the end of the topic or the end of the content, because this is something you want students to continue to think about throughout the course. So think about how you can introduce the ideas, but also sow the seeds for that later thinking and development. Think about the different disciplines the students are involved in and how that may shape the kinds of activities they do, and also think about the culture the students come from and how that may frame the way in which they approach those questions. So there's your reading, and there's your topic to prepare for in class. I look forward to seeing you soon.